It's the 22nd of November 2015, and a conversation on Axiom Flux Live. We've got PJ, Daniela and Paul, Richard and Andy, and I think that's about it. Good evening.
Good evening.
Good evening.
Okay, right. What's it about tonight? Well, I'll get straight into the articles, and then we can discuss from that. This is from the Observer view on whether there is a case for Britain bombing Syria. If you haven't been following it, which you probably have been inundated from mainstream TV and all the rest, that things are starting to heat up. So as regards the terrorist attacks in Paris, and lots of talks and negotiations and things going on via the EU, the United Nations, etc., etc. So this article is basically Observer's view on whether there's a case of Britain bombing Syria, which we'll get to another article that that talks about whether I think sooner or later there'll be a Parliament vote in the UK to go into Syria with the Air Force, etc. So anyway, this is an interesting piece. I started off, I might not read it all, but I'll just go over the bits and pieces. Britain is soon to make a momentous decision whether to join the air campaign against ISIS and its Syrian strongholds, with all the risks such a move involves. In 2002 and 2003, this country conducted a far-reaching, impassioned debate about whether Britain should join in the looming US invasion of Iraq. In the event, the wrong decision was taken. Many, including this newspaper, reached a mistaken conclusion, namely that the threat posed by Saddam Hussein in all its various manifestations outweighed the risk of attacking and occupying a sovereign state without UN authorization. The consequences of that miscalculation remain with us today. I have to do this bit by bit because the screen gets... A dozen years later, the long-simmering debate over whether Britain should extend into Syria its aerial bombing campaign against the Islamic State terrorist forces in Iraq is coming to the boil, given added impetus by Friday night's unanimous UN Security Council resolution urging members to take all necessary measures to prevent and suppress ISIS terrorism on territory under its control in Syria and Iraq. It's vitally important that mistakes made in 2003 are not repeated, given the continued inexcusable delay to the Chilcot inquiry's report into the Iraq war. It is not yet possible to understand fully the whys and wherefores of that disastrous conflict. This gap in the official records makes a rigorous examination of the case for military action in Syria all the more pressing. And goes on to say it's necessary, first of all, to be clear what is not being proposed. If David Cameron brings this matter to a vote in the House of Commons, authorization will be sought for airstrikes alone. Unlike Iraq, a ground invasion involved large numbers of British troops is not contemplated in Syria at this time, nor are Britain's allies, including the US, proposing such an invasion. Furthermore, any military action would be aimed at ISIS and its collaborators, not the Syrian state or its government and leaders. This would not be an exercise in a regime change. Yes. We're debating on that in a minute, talk about that. Just as importantly, according to David Cameron, expanded British military action would occur in tandem with renewed international peace efforts mediated by the UN. The talks prospectively include President Bashar al-Assad's Alawite regime and the main Sunni opposition groups, but exclude terror organisations such as ISIS and the Al-Qaeda-linked Al-Nusra Front. In Mr Cameron's words, expanding bombing would be but one part of a comprehensive strategy. Convincing the Labour Party, as well as some Conservative MPs and the sceptical Liberal Democrats and SNP of the truth and the accuracy of this latter claim about a wider strategy will be essential if a Commons majority is to be achieved. They say, rightly, that a few British bombs, however skillfully aimed, will not change the course of the battle against ISIS. Such risky operations may only be worthwhile if accompanied by a broader effort by an enlarged military coalition, including Russia, Turkey and leading Arab states, supported or at least not sabotaged by Iran and conducted in tandem with a genuine diplomatic push for peace. The government should admit this is not something it can be sure of delivering. Many other serious concerns, I've gone too far, many other serious concerns must be allied before Parliament, and the country can be expected to support Operation Syria here, and the shadow of Iraq looms large. How long would a military campaign last, and what are the criteria for success? Would expanded operations truly be restricted to the air, or would British Special Forces be asked to join their US counterparts in the hostage rescue and ground raids recently authorised by President Obama? How resistant, in fact, would any such campaign to mission creep, especially if bombing does not bring quick results? Will there be a stepping up of drone attacks of the kind recently used to kill British citizens? What will the government do if an RAF pilot is taken captive by ISIS, bearing in mind the terrible fate that befell the captured Jordanian pilot, Mozo al-Kasabay, who was burnt to death in a cage? Can we trust the accuracy of the intelligence on which bombing would be based, ensuring that civilians are not killed or maimed in error, as happens so often in Afghanistan? Is really convincing Mr. Cameron pleading self-defence to insist that he, like Tony Blair, has no need of specific UN authorisation beyond that provided by Friday's vote, guaranteeing that Britain is acting within international law and with all is said and done? Would such a campaign be undertaken because it is the right moral thing to do, or because the White House expects and demands it of us? One nagging question links all others, given previous wounding experience when dealing with momentous issues of war and peace. Can the British public trust the British government for truth and jihadi menace is not confined to northern Syria and Iraq? The jihadi menace struck in Ankara in October and in Beirut earlier this month in northern Nigeria last week, and on Friday in Mali's capital, Bamako, where Islamist gunmen shot up a hotel. It's quite an extensive article. Well, no, we're nearly there. Well, nearly there. I might as well read the rest of it. The jihadi menace also struck terror in the heart of one of the world's greatest cities, reducing Paris to tears and France to a country seized by an open-ended emergency. The jihadi menace lives in the minds of alienated, radicalised young Muslim men and women. It is rooted in the deprived hinterlands of Brussels and other European and Arab capitals. It spreads futilely across the internet and social media, and it feeds on ongoing violence from Libya to Yemen to Bangladesh. Most of all, it thrives amid Syria agony. All of which leaves one question outstanding. Would bombing Syria bolster Britain's security, as advocates claim, or would it in truth make this country even more of a target for jihadi attack? If Mr. Cameron believes a Paris-style onslaught in London or Cardiff or Glasgow is worth risking, he has a duty to honestly say so, and then people can make up their minds. Well, I just looked at this last bit here, and they mention Yemen, and it feeds ongoing violence from Libya to Yemen. Well, there's no mentions of the Saudis here causing atrocities in Yemen. There's no mention of Arab capitals, perhaps, but there's no mention of what's going on in Yemen with the killing of thousands of people by the Saudi government, which are backed also now just the ISIS on going in and actually killing Yemenis people. So ISIS, Saudi, well, I'll leave everybody to think about that one. But basically, I mean, what I do, Paul, is I'll quickly just do my next article, and I'll bring somebody in if they want to comment, whatever, just to tie this in. This isn't
Okay.
Yeah, go ahead, PJ.
Wasn't PJ, it was Paul saying okay.
Okay, okay, Paul. Right, and this is a Yahoo thing. I think it's Sky Incorporated. Anyway, MPs to vote on ISIS strikes when PM confident. This is very much similar to, that this is going ahead, but there's a couple of points I want to tie with that other one. MPs will get to vote again on whether Britain can proceed with airstrikes on Islamic State in Syria, but not until the government is confident of getting a majority. George Osborne said losing such a vote for a second time after a previous defeat in 2013 would be a publicity coup for the extremist group. The Chancellor was speaking amid reports that David Cameron is launching a final attempt to win back for airstrikes in Syria, with MPs expected to vote in the Commons within the next fortnight. The first bombing raids against Islamic State would begin within hours of a yes vote, the Sunday Times reported. Mr Cameron is to start privately warning MPs that the UK needs to act like Churchill, not Chamberlain, if it wishes to defeat terrorism. Downing Street sources told the newspaper that Mr Cameron is preparing a 7-point plan for military intervention. This report in response to findings of the influential Commons Foreign Affairs Committee, which have warned against military involvement until there was an international strategy to end the conflict. BBC's Andrew Moore, we're not going to the House of Commons and lose again. Oh, I know that. Otherwise you wouldn't be taking it, mate. That would be publicity coup for ISIL. That would send a terrible message about Britain's role in the world. So we're only going to call a vote when we're confident we're going to win that vote. Prime Minister's push for airstrikes comes as Mr Osborne plans to announce that Britain is purchasing 138 stealth fighter jets in a £12 billion deal. Right? We got loads of money. We ain't got austerity. Yeah, we've got loads. The Sunday Times said the purchase, which goes far beyond what military experts expected, is reportedly the centrepiece of the government's defence review to be published on Monday. However, the Navy is likely to suffer considerable scalebacks, according to the newspaper. Meanwhile, there are concerns that proposed budget cuts to the police force will hinder their ability to cope with Paris-style attacks. Yeah, we know how they're going to deal with that. In a letter written to Home Secretary Theresa May, a senior police officer said cuts may reduce very significant police capabilities in the event of such an attack. On Monday, David Cameron is meeting with French President Francois Hollande for talks on how to tackle IS in Iraq and Syria. This gathering follows the unanimous UN backing of France's call to coordinate international efforts in the wake of Paris attacks. A Comrades poll for the Sunday Mirror, independent on Sunday, suggested 46% of Britons believe the UK should participate in airstrikes against IS with or without UN approval. However, 32% of those surveyed disagree. Jeremy Corbyn apparently ruled out military intervention in Syria during a speech on Saturday, but MPs within his own party have warned it would be deplorable if Labour failed to back in the government in a Commons vote. I've written that right. France is part of a US-led coalition which has been carrying out airstrikes against IS for over a year, with Russia launched a separate bombing campaign in September. UN Secretary General Ban Ki-moon urged Russia and the US and Sunday to cooperate in the efforts to root out terrorism, while US Barack Obama said the US and its allies would not relent in its efforts to destroy. There was a part in here, but it seems to have been taken out since I got it before. And though Cameron did say, unless I missed it, that by getting these 138 new strike aircraft, whatever they are, fighter jets, will enable them for a generation to fight terrorism. I'm sure it was in this article, it might be in another one. Maybe I got it muddled up. But if anybody wants to know what is going to go down in the next decades, it's a continuation of what we got now, and perhaps even an escalation. Anyway, I'll throw it up in the air if anybody wants to say, make any comments about that. There was some points, but I'll expand on them as we go along if need be. Anything to say, anyone?
Hi guys, I think Paul wanted to say something.
You're saying how they cherry pick what they want as propaganda to use to steer and engineer the global world, and this is a prime example of their cherry picking.
Yeah.
As for sending Iran in to talk about peace talks, who's going to have the peace talks with? Because it's ISIS and ISIS is just a made-up entity of the different world agencies that are performing all this that's going down.
Well, perhaps they're going to have a jolly good talk with themselves, about themselves.
What, give themselves a good telling off, you mean?
Yeah, kind of thing. Kind of thing. I mean, you couldn't make this up, could you really? It's bad and very serious, but you really couldn't make it up. I mean, who the hell armed these people? Where did they come from? Who's given them the ammunition to do this? Where does it come from?
Austerity they're making the rest of us wear.
Well, this is the irony of it all. When you look down here and it's a 12 billion pounds, right? The British people are going to pay. The British people are going to pay, which I presume they will pay in taxes if such things actually exist, because, well, people are told they exist, but where does those taxes go? Well, if you know the monetary system and how it works with the exchange of bonds for debt from banks that basically make it appear from numbers on a keyboard, you know, the bad thing about this is that, you know, the money that, the numbers that they will generate out of this government and Western governments will then, you know, make exchange for arms or buy up arms and sell to the Middle East of contractors. I mean, it's a sick circle of deception, and as far as I'm concerned, because I mean, and that's what they say in the mainstream. I mean, that's not even looking deeply into it, you know, whatever. I mean, you know, they openly admit that they funded the non-radical rebels of Syria. Did they fund the? Did they help out any of the guys in Libya, where most of these rebels in Syria came from? And then we can trace it back to Afghanistan, and we can trace it back to Iraq, and then you know, who created Mujahideen, who funded the Mujahideen, where it all sort of came from, and who were the people of the Mujahideen? They were the Wahhabi extremists, as you call them, or where do they come from? Saudi Arabia. It's like a big vicious circle, isn't it? You know, it's well, you don't have to be that open-minded.
I'm hearing a war of terrorism which is never ending.
Yeah.
And that suits their need because it pumps the money into the military-industrial complex and into the powers.
Yeah, I mean, I've got a comment, Stav, on that little portion that it says about George Osborne.
Oh,
no, just on the one you were on.
Oh, down the bottom.
No, just where it were. George Osborne said losing such a vote. Oh, you took it off review now. Yeah, losing such a vote for a second time after a previous defeat in 2013 would be a publicity coup for the extremist group. In other words, because if we don't strike, drone strike Syria, then these extremist groups are going to have their idea that we're just, you know, we're cowards basically. We're not really got bothered about, you know, what they're doing. So then they're going to come over here then, because they'll think it's safe to attack UK with there being no drone strikes. So what that actual sentence of George Osborne goes against his own words, because none of it makes sense.
No, well, it's not meant to.
I know it's not meant to, but what I'm trying to say is if they don't go into Syria and strike and do these bombs and put whatever they've got planned, put them into place, then according to him, he feels that these extremist groups are going to take advantage of that and come further over here.
Well, hang on, PJ. How many supposedly claimed and printed by mainstream media and put out there by, how many terrorist plots have they stopped in the last 2 months? I don't know if you read the headline.
Yeah, but what you're missing the point, Stav. If they were to go into Syria, right? Say this MP's vote got passed and Britain went in and we started dropping bombs. That means all these extremist groups around the area, if there is any allegedly, they're all going to disperse out of that area and move into Europe, yeah? Because they've got to in order to get away from all bombs.
Yeah,
right? But that's going to go dead against them, because the further they get to Europe, that means all these bombs and strikes, what they're doing, they're going to have to get further to Europe.
Yeah.
It's just I mean, that statement, what he made, absolute psychopath.
Well,
Yeah.
I'll move on to this last bit because this one ties in with this one. This is Tuesday. It's quite old. But the fact of the matter is, they're going on saying we've got to have this vote and make sure that we've got to win it in government. Like if they haven't made their mind already up, they have made their mind already up.
Yeah, of course
The
they
vote will be a farce because it'll just be symbolic, right? As we
Yeah,
know.
but if you don't want ISIS to get into Europe, don't strike Syria, and then they might stay there. Now, I'm not saying that's what we should do. It's not going to help Syria, obviously.
Yeah.
But going along with the narrative of the mainstream, that'd be the best idea until we can think of something else. Wouldn't you agree?
Yeah, of course.
Right.
Well, as the Americans say, as the Ron Paul movement and the rest say, no foreign entanglements. Let's move it over here.
And I'd like to know where they cherry picked where to do the polls for this percentage. What was it? 15%,
I'm
you say?
covering that, Paul. I'm going to be covering that as well as what's going off with China.
Anyway, they're just, like I say, it's going to be symbolic. It doesn't matter. They're going in. I'm pretty 100% sure that there'll be planes dropping bombs from here before Christmas, definitely. As another article said, because the reason is they're obliged to. They have to. You see, a lot of people don't realise. Well, a lot of people do, but many that are not awake to these things. Is that we've already signed up and it was ratified and it's actually in place in 2009, the Lisbon Treaty, which is the treaty of all the treaties, that if somebody invokes this Article 42.7, they have to, they're obliged, and it means this, it means exactly this, what it says here, and I read you this article. They have no option. They've got to, otherwise they're breaking EU law, which is that, who knows, UK might have sanctions put on it by the European Union. Yeah, isn't it stupid? Anyway, France has taken the European Union into uncharted territory by obliging, the other 27 member states to come to its defence following the terrorist atrocities in Paris. Invoking Article 42.7 and a never-used clause of the EU treaty triggering mutual defence among the 28 member states. Paris admitted it was struggling to cope with its foreign military commitments while beefing up security at home in the wake of the attacks, and asked the rest of Europe to come to assistance. I put it in a kind way, but they've invoked this article saying you are obliged. You sign the Lisbon Treaty. It's been ratified. It's in European law now, and you're part of it. You can't get out of it. But this article will make it sound like, oh, they're asking. The request was supported unanimously in what Jean-Yves Le Drian, the French defence minister, described as an emotional and highly charged meeting of the EU defence ministers in Brussels. As a result of the train attacks in Spain 2004, the EU inserted mutual defence measures into the Lisbon Treaty, similar to NATO's Alliance Article 5, which obliges all member countries to come to the defence of one of their number if attacked. As the EU does not have an army, the French will now conduct a set of bilateral negotiations with other EU states on what kind of military help might be available. Article 42.7 stipulates that if a member state is the victim of armed aggression on its territory, the other member state shall have towards it an obligation of aid and assistance by all the means in their power, in accordance with Article 51 of the United Nations Charter. However, the article adds, this shall not prejudice the specific character of security and defence policy of certain member states. The latter sentence means that the neutrality of countries such as Ireland, Austria and Sweden cannot be impugned, while the emphasis on help from member states means that the defence arrangements are agreed between national governments in the EU without the involvement of the institutions in Brussels, such as European Commission or European Parliament. This leaves France free to strike deals with other governments without in the intervention of Brussels. In other words, if any of the MEPs went, no, we've got to have a vote on it. No, it's a done deal, mate. You signed the Lisbon Treaty. Get out of here. Negotiations. Anyway, by the contrast, Article 222 of the treaty, issued in this instance by the French, says that the Union and its member states shall act jointly in a spirit of solidarity if a member state is the object of a terrorist attack or the victim of a natural or man-made disaster. Oh, yeah. The Union shall mobilise all the instruments at its disposal, including the military resources made available by the member states. This would hand a major role to the European Commission, and Paris have opted to avoid. The British government stood ready to assist the French. The German Defence Minister Ursula von der Leyen said that the French advocation of the mutual defence clause meant only that there was a basis for consultation. Well, that's convenient for the Germans, but we need greater intelligence sharing, said an ambassador to the EU, and this is what a lot of it's about too. The issue is likely to come up on Friday at the emergency meeting in Brussels of the EU Interior Minister. Reinforcing the external borders of the EU is another area where the pledges might be applied, with increasing talk of military elements being added to police operations on the EU's frontiers. But Paris also appeared to be asking its EU partners for some relief from its foreign military commitments, including participation in UN missions in Africa and Lebanon, as well as involvement in the bombing campaign against Islamic State in Syria and Iraq. Le Drian admitted that France was overstretched. France can't do everything. It can't act alone, he said. Every country said, I'm going to help you. That can take different forms. There are many types of assistance possible, whether in the Middle Eastern area or elsewhere. How is this going to work, said Le Drian. It may be by cooperating with French interventions in Syria, in Iraq. It may be in support of France in other operations. Attending the EU defence meeting, the NATO Secretary General Jens Stoltenberg said Paris had not tabled any parallel request to trigger Article 5. His political act and political message, said Frederic Mogherini, the EU's Foreign and Secretary Policy Coordinator. Each member state would contribute to helping France in line with their capabilities and foreign policies, she added. The details would be developed in a set of bilateral talks between national governments. The Prime Minister has been clear that he will do whatever can to help the French government this time, and that we need to work together to beat these terrorists, said a UK spokesman. We have been in constant contact with the French authorities since Friday. This is about French requests for bilateral assistance from other EU member states. It's not a request, it's an order, it's in the treaty, you signed it. We understand and support the French decision, and we stand ready to consider any French request for assistance. EU positions on Syria were shifted as a result of the Paris attacks. Senior diplomats said Britain, Germany, Italy, Spain are now said to support concentrating military efforts on eradicating ISIS and being less insistent for the time being bringing down the Syrian regime. France, which has consistently taken the most hawkish line on the regime of President Bashar al-Assad, was not diluting its position. The diplomat said, while tiny Luxembourg, currently chairing the EU, takes the toughest line of all, arguing that Assad should be deposed by military means. So basically, you know, there is all this friendly talk, no soft talk like this Guardian's put out, The Guardian, right? They are obliged. This is about sole sovereignty that we don't have anymore in the UK. We don't have the right, apparently, because we sold it in EU treaties under treason, of course. If you believe in the Constitution, you know, it's foreign powers. If any European country will click their fingers and they ask for assistance, well, they don't even ask. They can order assistance from the UK because we're all part of the EU. And anybody believes that we're not, I suggest they go and read the Lisbon Treaty for what it is. And these politicians try and make out, oh, we're in Europe, but you know, we've got a foot in and a foot out. Well, if you sign up to these treaties, there are consequences. And if you sign away your sovereignty, you don't have it anymore. And you have no right to go against the treaties. This has been happening for 30 years. And it's creeped in, and we're going to see the result of it now. So, do I believe there will be a yes vote in the Parliament when it's put forward either this week or the following week? You betcha it's already been decided because they're obliged to. Anyway, that's my articles. Whoever wants to have a go or talk about that, or opinion.
Comment on that.
Yeah, I'll open it up for comments now.
I'd like to take us back to July 2008. Before Bar Brown.
Right.
When he ratified the Lisbon Treaty in secret. And we can't forget that that ratification was also signed by the Queen, who, according to the newspapers, had no choice because Mr. Brown had signed the treaty. He was constitutionally forced to follow suit, which is dodgy, isn't it, to say the least? Because our constitution isn't the EU constitution. I mean, Gordon Brown quite efficiently gave our constitution over to the EU constitution back in 2008, which makes both him and the Queen traitors to the British people. You know, even though Gordon Brown had no democratic or moral authority to sign Britain up to what is renamed the EU Constitution, it says here it's a breach of trust. Well, it isn't. It's traitor.
It's it's treason.
It's plain treason.
Yeah, well, actually, Richard.
By Brown.
That's right. Absolutely. There's only two ways.
Back in the Blair.
They've signed us into a straitjacket, given us away. They have committed treason.
Yeah. Well, there's only, correct me if I'm wrong, I may be wrong, but there's only two ways you can lose your sovereignty. One is in war, where you're taken over. The other is through referendum, through the people, and ask the people whether they want to give up their constitution for something else. I can't think of any other way. Apart from what the unlawful, treasonous acts by previous, I was going to call them governments, but let's call them what they are, dictatorships. And basically, that's what's happened. And and this is all going to be a result. You're going to see very soon that what the consequences of that is, and they won't be having to fuddy-duddy and lighten it all up and say, oh, they've asked and we're going to debate it. No, it's there's so.
People must follow the dots because it's interesting. Because at the same time, Brown also sold our gold stocks off.
Oh, Brown's bottom.
At the same time, he was searching with Lord Janner for stolen Nazi gold, which I believe they found. I've been looking over that over recent months and all, and there's a lot intertwined with Janner with all this regarding funding for illegal activities of our traders.
Is this the same alleged paedophile, Janner?
Yeah.
Yes. Well, there you go.
Yeah, it's all interesting. It goes back and right, but the way they've organised these false flags. Hang on, because it's where the hell am I? It's interesting that there's nothing in Moscow Times or Chinese newspapers about all this new activity.
Oh, what the rumours of China declaring war on ISIS? Well, I don't know. I mean, that's been vented in the last 24 hours because of one of the hostages, or there was a Chinese hostage killed, and allegedly three Chinese representatives of some railway company in the Mali bombing, or something along those lines.
Well, in fact, it's interesting what the Defence Secretary said back in October. You know, he was crying then about I'll quote him as saying, "We have seen British hostages being beheaded. We all know that was a false flag. We've seen British holidaymakers slaughtered on the beach in Tunisia, another false flag." And he's saying, and it's clear Israel is now a threat not simply to this country, but also to Iraq and the region. Makes very little sense for the UK to be the only coalition partner not to be involved in airstrikes against its headquarters in northeast Syria. And this guy's a right one.
Well, I think all the pieces in the game are all coming together. I mean, you've got the Americans, you've got the British, which will soon be, you've got the French, you've got the Russians, you've got the Iranians. Don't forget, the Iranians are on the ground in Syria and other areas because they're militias, aren't they? So you've got the only one you haven't got left is China.
It is Operation Gladio on stage, and it has to be because they're trying to make it global to get global control.
I was going to go into China in a little bit tonight. I did have a few articles, but I decided to actually just scrap that idea and just tell you what I know without showing you any articles, as I just thought there wasn't really that much of a point to it all. I mean, me, Stav, and Richard, I think we were looking about an hour into this, weren't we?
Yeah.
Trying to find out what crack is with China, and what we've come up with so far is China's basically just said that as an international effort they'll be involved, just as far as, you know, not accepting terrorism and with a plan to defeat it. But they never mentioned anything about going into Syria, joining up with Russia, or any of that. So whatever's being put out there regarding this Chinese civilian who's allegedly being killed by ISIS, I can't really see anything else but propaganda on that one. I've talked to a source in China. That source confirms pretty much what us three looked at earlier on. So far so good. China doesn't seem to be going into Syria as much as what we can see. So try not to buy into that one, people.
The only thing I'd say about that, PJ, is that China are heavily involved in lots of parts of Africa's continent for raw resources for their factories. You know, they make everything, don't they? Now, in that article, France saying that, you know, they're going to ask other EU members. And I'm just going to quote the Lisbon Treaty article again.
Yeah.
And if any other areas have these problems. Now, France is involved in North Africa and quite a bit of Western Africa, and a lot of these places, the Chinese have got deals with these countries for raw.
Well, they're buying a massive chunks of Africa and that.
Yeah. So what happens? What happens if you know, all of a sudden there's a problem with so-called terrorists, whether they be ISIL, Al Qaeda, or Nusra, or whatever they want to come up with a name next, that causes problems to disruption of the raw materials that they've done a deal with these countries with for millions and perhaps billions of American dollars, because that's what they all trade in. What happens if it disrupts that? What China's going to go, well, hang on a minute, We're the powerhouse that make all the stuff in the world. We've done these agreements with you, the West, America. We buy your debt and we send you goods. Now you're going to take over areas that we need the raw materials to do this with, what you're playing at. So I can see perhaps further down the line in the whole continent of Africa imploding with all sorts of problems like this.
So,
And that's,
sorry to interrupt there, but
No, please do.
go ahead, Andy.
Germany wants Russian sanctions lifted to safeguard economy and continue trade relations with Moscow. That would be for approximately 105 billion bilateral trade. So if you look at the area which this discussion is about, the Mediterranean Sea, you'll see that Russia is building 2 new military bases, which you can read yourself in the Institute of Modern Russia, one of their papers they put out, and where are we? If you look at the area, you'll see that they've got bases in Georgia, Ukraine, and they've got one small one somewhere near Serbia.
And of course, they got one in Syria, haven't they?
They've got 2 in Syria.
Is it 2? Right.
Yeah, and they're building military bases all around there. But if you just focus on the particular area, it's about energy, and as the energy is oil, who controls the oil? If you go to some interesting articles about Toyota, and you can see videos like they're under investigation because it's been launched into how many Toyotas ended up in the hands of ISIS. The car market, I mean, this is another article.
Yeah, that's since Libya.
Eh?
That's since Libya. That's when they all started appearing, all these Toyota.
Yeah, but they're under investigation now for. I mean, there's so many videos on YouTube now where they're just. There's thousands of these Toyotas,
Yeah.
and you can't just go and nick a few thousand Toyotas, can you? I mean, most of them are pretty brand new.
What about the Abrams tanks they seem to have as well?
Yeah, you see, that's why when you look at the whole global game, I mean, you've got Germany that wants all the sanctions lifted against Russia, and they want that lifted pretty quick because it's like over 100 billion bilateral trade, which is affecting their economy. And then you've got to ask yourself the question, why is Russia deployed in Syria when, you know, other countries were supposedly, especially the United States, were in there to propagandize the place even further. And there's even videos of Syrians that are saying that, well, there's even videos of them, of the military dropping arms to ISIS. So it's a global battle going on for the resources to take control of the area, and I think they'll let Russia take control of this situation The simple reason being is it's faffing up too many economies because of the sanctions that are on Russia itself. So if you look at the military bases as well that Russia's actually building at the moment, I mean, they're going crazy. They've got a few in Georgia. I mean, well, you can read, if you go to Business Insider UK, there's loads of information there, and it just goes on and on and on. So the whole thing is really just a game of cards. So let's go down the casino and take some of this funny paper with us.
Yeah, and yeah, I quite agree. And Russia and China are big players.
Well, Russia's
And
Russia's
they're
got
moving in
is
quite
rich.
rapidly now, and they're appearing to be opposition against the New World Order. But I don't agree with that whatsoever.
No. It's all part and parcel of it. It's all biblical as well if you go into it. But I won't go into that. You've got the bear, Russia. Yeah, it's the bear, the lion, and so on and so forth. But at the end of the day, China has no resources itself. That's why it's hungry or taken up. I mean, if you research it yourself, you'll see that they were taking iron ore. They're buying up gold like it's going out of fashion. I mean, most of their people, their citizens, are told to buy silver, told to buy gold.
Mm-hmm.
And lo and behold, we've got a gold currency. China.
Well, they genocided Tibet for the minerals.
Well, that's why. I mean, there's so many great people doing a lot of good work trying to get so much of this stuff out there. But if you have a funny piece of paper that's supposedly most people believe it's money, but I don't know where they get that belief from. But so they take this funny old paper over to Africa, and they take plutonium, oil, gold, silver, basically all the minerals, titanium, you name it, silver. And in exchange, they give them this funny piece of paper, and yet it costs something like 500. I can't remember the name of the currency now, but African currency. It takes about 500 to buy one of theirs. So the valuation of it is just retarded. I mean, it's just mind-blowing to see how pieces of paper can take control of natural resources around the world. Eh?
Not forgetting the fortunes the IMF make from all the African countries.
Yeah, well,
that's why if you go into the economic hitman, if you go into John Perkins, he's done so much work in trying to expose it, because he was one, so he knows exactly how it all works. And some of the books he's written, very informative, tell you how the whole operation works, and he uses the Iraq as the prime example. They sent the hitmen in there, and because Saddam had worked for or been trained by CIA and so on and so forth. I mean, all these people have been schooled in Switzerland, UK, America. I mean, even old Charlie Fung of whatever his name is, of Korea. I mean, he's schooled in Switzerland.
Hmm.
Yeah, that's why they talk.
Yeah, and interestingly enough, they're all schools, when I've had a look, that have had paedophilia charges against them.
Well, yeah,
Same as Jan's old school in Switzerland. I can't remember the name of it right now.
If you see read some of the Jesuit stuff and the apostate church and whatever, this is why it's very difficult for a lot of people to become a fiction of law. Yeah, one has to transgress the law.
Yeah.
So if you're transgressing the law, which everyone is, they've all got graven images, and they're all operating by and through a fictional character, which most people believe is themselves.
Yeah.
So, you know, when the Roman praetors created the fictions of law, which is just a presumption, but because I mean most people presume they're free, don't they?
Well, of course.
Yeah, it's just a presumption. People presume that they're free, but if you're not holding, that's why if you don't rebut the presumption, but the presumption is they're acting on a presumption because they're holding the indentured deed, and no one rebuts that.
Yeah.
And because they are holding the indentured deed of all the live birth records and dishing out the other half of the indentured deed, which is the birth certificate.
Yeah.
So you then become instead of the grantor or the grantee, you become now the trustee.
Yeah.
And trustees have to perform. So that's why when you look at it because it's all been departmentalized and it's all been fragmented, so people have a job putting all the pieces together.
Yeah, and it's getting more fragmented as we go through the years.
Well, I mean, if you go into a bank, we use a bank as an example. You go into a bank and you ask the teller, "Can I open an account?" And the teller will say, "Well, I can't do it. You'll have to see that person over there because they open the accounts." But then if you ask that person over there that opens the accounts about the bank accounts, that they won't be able to go behind and act as a teller because they haven't been trained and they don't know what they're doing behind there. And it's like the banking manuals that are given out to the CEOs or the higher echelons up the top that do all the fraud and the deception. They've got manuals that none of the lower ranking staff can possibly read, and it's written on them that this is only to be read by the CEO or CFO or whatever.
Yeah, that's correct.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's right, and that runs right through the system.
Yeah, well, that's right, and that's why the courts, they're all the same. You go and see this one, and they don't know what goes on there, and you go and see that one, and I don't know, and I can't give you any legal advice because legal advice is nonsense, and you can make it whatever you want to be. So I can't give you any legal advice because it's total nonsense.
I had a very good teacher on that because I was married to a bank teller when I first got married for the second time. And then she became a fraud investigator for the DWP.
Well, she'd have a job to investigate the fraud.
Then it was interesting to see, and it was interesting to get a little bit of knowledge out of it. And really, the knowledge she had was far below what I had.
Yeah, well, when you believe in something that's not real. You know.
Yeah, when you try to challenge even people in the system, such as a magistrate on law or somebody working for DWP fraud, of course they don't like to be challenged. They think they know it all, and they like to think they know it
all.
Well,
you can't challenge people. I mean, it's getting back to the subject tonight that we're talking about. all this. I mean, BBC have launched a thing about Charlie Hebdo. It's all fake. They've got stage markers by the car, this, that, and all the rest of it. You see,
Yeah, I know, but we know that.
yeah. But I mean, people are starting to wake up and I mean, if you went back 10 years ago, people had bought into it.
No, definitely, yeah.
Yeah.
Can I just mention this? I don't know if you can see my screen sharing. Yeah.
Hang on a minute. Let's go there.
It's just a petition.
In Syria.
Now, there's plenty of these petitions floating around, and I don't really think they make a difference how many of these. But the point I'm trying to get at with this particular one is, I think the other one got so many tens of thousands of signatures, but it ended up getting blocked on Facebook, and a few other things happened with that. But this is the one that says, "Stop the illegal airstrikes in Syria."
This is the one I shared. This one actually.
Did you share this one? Well, it's only got just over 1,500 signatures, but this is to stop the illegal airstrikes in Syria. Now, the other ones that are going around, the big ones, they're to stop, the vote going through for Britain to go into Syria with, airstrikes. So if we can only get 1,500 on stopping the illegal airstrikes, then what's the point? I mean, does that not say enough?
Well, you see, we have to realise that there's a corporation, and that corporation doesn't have any live people on its books.
Yeah, I know it doesn't know. Well, yeah. You're talking about DWP. Now, for reasons that I'll probably announce it next few days, I'm changing DWP's meaning. To me, it means the department that works with the private. That's what it is for me now, and I can confirm that.
It's all public-private partnerships now.
Yeah, I'll be confirming that in the next few days.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's.
But I wanted to show you that one. I don't know if you want to carry on talking or.
But, I mean, these petitions myself, I don't think they have anything to say, to be honest.
No.
The same as protest. But I
don't forget, in circumstances, they can make it perfectly legal to murder somebody.
Oh,
well,
yeah.
They just have. I mean, if you read the some of the parliamentary shit that they've just released in the last 3 years, I mean, they've armed most of the police. I mean, I travel around the country quite a lot, and I was down in a little village, a little country village, and the police rolled through it in a BM X5, and they got out, and both got sidearms, both had got tasers, and you're thinking, crikey, there's only pigs and sheep round here. What are they expecting?
Mm-hmm.
You see, it's all a matter of fear mongering, because what they're after, and it is the agenda they have, is to take away the liberties and freedoms which people buy into, all this stage terror shit and everything else. I mean, yeah, there's so many people that buy into it, and they think by giving up their freedoms to be protected from the bogeyman that nothing's going to ever happen to them.
Well, I don't think they even realise they're giving up the freedom.
Yeah, well, they don't.
They just go along to get along. I mean, with all the crap on Facebook and all that, I mean, the huge majority just goes along to get along. I mean, I have my girlfriend has a daughter called Isis, and they've been banning people with the name Isis now on Facebook. And she's been getting a lot of stick over that lately.
Wow.
It's just ridiculous, the amount of crap
Rights,
people just take in and just,
rights made by man can be taken away by man.
Well, there was no rights given to man by man, because your rights are given to you.
Well, you're born with it,
by he who created. That's why they can't. This is why they hate. I mean, people just research it themselves. I mean, all law is derived from one book, and you can go into the coronation of the Queen. You can go into all the ceremony of the Queen when she's in Westminster, and so on and so forth. And if you have a look at all
in a ceremony of her coming into the Druids and being Queen of the Druids, personally. I mean, the amount of stuff the Queen gets up to on the side is quite amazing. People just don't know.
well, we have to remember that these people are parasites.
Oh, aye.
Yeah,
they're our real modern day.
and they've been feeding off the host.
Yeah.
For hundreds of, well, thousands of years, and
At least 10,000 years that I can go back.
people are slowly starting to put it together.
And
Yeah.
me and Stav don't actually refer to them as parasites anymore. We've developed his new term for it. Would you like to hear it?
Yeah, I'd love it.
Go on, Stav, hit 'em with it.
Which one?
Our new term. We don't call them parasites anymore.
Depends which one you're referring to, PJ.
Well, what's worse than a parasite?
Oh, tick turd.
A tick turd. They're not even ticks. They're the shit from the ticks. Tick
Yeah.
turds.
You've
That's
got to
what
find out. You've got to find out who the big tick is. The big
Yeah.
mum tick.
Yeah.
Well, the big tick, he sits on 7 hills, and he gives out speeches such as, "We should give more to charity to help the poor and the homeless," whilst he's holding up a golden cross worth probably a few million.
It's got nothing to do with this website here, has it, by any chance? World Beyond War. Got a lot of ideas, a lot of suggestions and things like that, some nice words, and got a lot of people involved. And but when you get to the bottom of this page about what they're about, they seem to end it with where is it? Hold on. Peace is not free. We need your support. In other words, they just want you to buy stuff like these jumpers and cups and donate button, which isn't too far away. Look, donate.
Yeah, well, if the paper is created from nothing,
There's just so much of that nowadays. It's unbelievable.
and it's
And then this is the video. Look, guys, a little video. Guy homeless with dog. Got a few other things. You know what I mean? I'll skip through these little images here. Oh, bit of money there. Look, that's probably what they're after. And a few other things, but anyway, I just thought I'd chuck that in on that one.
yeah, no, it's all part and parcel of it. That's what I mean. There's just so much stuff. You could never go through it all, could you?
No, I just want to cover these articles. There's only a few in.
All these charities are coming with the public-private ships now.
Yeah.
It's profit making for the multinationals
Oh yeah.
that run the charities.
Well, let's bring it back round to Syria now. This is just to cover what Stav basically started off with Osborne's suggestions. Just UK could join the aerial bombing, as Stav just explained earlier. Prime Minister is likely to make a statement to MPs on Thursday. This article says that tomorrow he's travelling to Paris to discuss the fight against ISIS with the French President. And that's about it on that. Everything else Stav covered. So that's that one. Nice and quickly done. This one's Britain split down the middle over airstrikes on Syria. This is a poll, yeah? I'll bring you that up there so you can have a look at that. Right. What I wanted to say is, I mean, I've talked to a lot of people to a point where you can't talk to these people anymore about this because, I mean, I'm sick of listening to people saying, we're not bothered about, bombing Syria, just bomb them. This is what I get. People saying, just bomb Syria, as long as ISIS don't come over here, I'm not bothered. Who's in Syria when they get bombed?
Well, we should look at it this way. Would we like to be sitting here and then start being bombed?
Yeah, but how do you talk to these people, Andy?
Yeah.
I'm finding it very difficult. I mean, I've listened to podcasts and shows all week from different people like Richie Allen, and everybody's losing it.
Right.
Yeah, well, that's because of the
I understand
confusion.
your frustration.
The confusion of you see, you've got media. This is the idea of putting these polls out: 50% yes, 50% no.
I mean, what
64%.
sort of polls that? Come on.
Yeah, well, there you go. I mean, they asked 2 people.
Yeah.
You know, you couldn't make this stuff up, I tell you.
It's very
That's it, you just can't make it all up,
democratic,
nowadays.
isn't it? You know,
It's,
50-50.
But if you put enough stuff, propaganda out there, and confuse the people.
Well, look at this one. The case for British airstrikes on Syria makes even less sense now. This one makes if it can't get any more complicated. When you go through this one, guys, I mean it's Guardian's latest post about 2 hours, 2.5 hours ago. Just have a read of this. This alone just pretty much covers what we're discussing tonight, really.
Yeah, is it? I mean, well, you've only got to turn the telly on if you've got one and watch all the freaking nonsense on there. And,
This is yeah.
You know, they put so much conflicting information out there that people their minds start getting muddled. If they would have just switched it all off and seriously sit there and think about it themselves without having any interruptions about being persuaded to think in a certain way or persuaded to take action about doing something that makes absolutely no sense. Yeah.
At the minute, a lot of alternative media is trying to get direct to the people in order to, wake them up to what's really going off and to do something about it. But as we've just had Stav explaining, that doesn't seem to be the case anymore anyway, if it ever was. I mean, the decision sounds to me like it's already been decided. So
yeah, the people, you see, they've got to harmonise the populace. They've got to harmonise the overall populace. Yeah, there's always going to be a few disgruntled people, such as myself. But
yeah, but with the Lisbon Treaty, it's not down to the. We could have everybody saying no, we don't want to go to Syria, and they'll still go.
Yeah, but the Lisbon Treaty, that's something totally different. That's to do with all the EU members signing away your rights and so on and so forth. I mean, these sort of things aren't made mainstream before, and there's no vote, or that's why there's no democracy. It's just a farce. I mean, it is just a belief. People believe that they're free, and like I said earlier, unless they rebut that presumption, but then again, it all revolves around equity and property and energy, and that's what these people are masters of confusion.
Yeah,
and they require the control of the whole global show so that they can dictate the terms.
That article that you showed, Stav, where you tried to find that bit where it went on about we've got enough ammunition for next generation or whatever it were, that you didn't find at the time, yeah?
Yeah, that's right. Well, I wasn't sure if it was in that article or somewhere else.
Well, I can remember you actually showing it me, so I do know it was doing it. The point is, Stav, that I was making is, I mean, it's only this next generation that they really need to focus on. I mean, once they've done that, that's it, it's game over.
Of course. I mean,
there's too many people now that in fact, if you probably research, I mean, I haven't bothered because I know for a fact that there's, I talk to a lot of people and just ask stupid questions, and the popularity vote for government is so basically zero now.
But this article actually talked about that, funny enough. Just on about Cameron Abid Sheikh's web of influence that infiltrated Britain. Probably most of you guys are already aware of all this, but only now can the lengths to which the United Arab Emirates has gone to achieve such influence be revealed. Few other things, it includes some of David Cameron's closest lieutenants and sought to mould UK policy to suit its own political ambitions. There you go. It's one of the world's wealthiest autocracies, an Arabian wonderland, glittering with the baubles bought with vast oil revenues, ultra-modern skyscrapers, luxury supercars, and massive shopping malls, along with mind-boggling personal fortunes.
One will hardly meet another one. You know, because that's where it comes from. I mean, but what Andy was saying about freedom, people under the illusion that they have this freedom.
Oh, you do. You do have freedom. You're freedom to believe all this crap that they're putting out. That's the only freedom you've got.
All I say to them is, well, when you go down the road in a nice new car and the tarmacky road, you don't pay for that tax. You don't pay that insurance. You don't pay that MOT. You don't do any of that. You see how long you're left free going down that road. Oh, as for owning a house, as for owning a mortgage, getting a mortgage, well, you stop paying your mortgage. You see how free you are then.
Yeah.
You know, but people don't think this. They think they have to earn a living.
Yep. Well, I think we're going to go into this more next week. I think it's Saturday. I've got a talk planned. Not going to tell you too much information for those that are listening in. Just be tuning in sometime Saturday. You'll be able to hear a good talk, hopefully, if all goes to plan.
Yeah. And I think work is a good thing, but a job, I view the two different.
Yeah.
People have to analyse the word job and work. I think you'll find they're two different things, but there you go. That's my way of looking at it. Okay.
Well, they're my polls anyway. I think I'll just end you with this article, which is a little bit off of Syria now. You probably have a laugh at this. This is Miley Cyrus.
Oh my God.
Well, if I put this on, people will tune into the rest of it, won't they, Stav? So, you know, it's actually
weird. What is that all about?
Well, I don't know. I don't even know what it's about, but I don't even want to know. I just thought, well, there's going to be a lot. Look, 83,000 people.
Well, she's got a plastic thing strapped to a crutch.
Oh, there you go.
She's got bosoms hanging out some leather straps. If it's symbolism, which is it? A phallic? Is it phallic symbolism? What is it? What the hell? I can't even work that one out. Over to you, Andy.
No, I have no idea. I give up. I'm drying out, guys. I thought I'd end with that one anyway, unless you've got anything else to discuss.
No, not really. No, after that, it's put me off.
Okay, have we still got everybody here, Richard? Any final thoughts? Any comments?
Pardon?
Any comments before we close tonight? Anything you'd like to say before?
No, I'm still skull-fucked by that last picture.
Tell me about it. Listen, if it could stop people falling for all this bullshit, then you know, leave Miley Cyrus to it. But there you go.
Well, my advice for anyone in the know is to get into the local community and let them know.
Yeah, that's it. A lot of people now are getting involved with this local stuff. I've noticed it myself. A lot of people are packing all this in and just saying, do you know what, I'm just going to go and help homeless people in my area, take them a few clothes and things like that. And I really do feel that this...
better reaction doing that than going to any protest, apart from the... I like to attend the sexual abuse, institutional sex abuse protests. Apart from them, and getting involved with groups like the Teesside Solidarity Movement and all that lot, I've been involved.
Yeah.
I've just set me back on a lot.
There's some amazing groups out there now. People just meeting up. They're not really a group. They're just people meeting up to some of them. I think, you know, there's other ones that I like the ideas of, which is Max Egan's, you know, Full Circle Project. I think that's a good idea as well.
Well, and Ubuntu, don't forget.
And Ubuntu, yeah. And the one that you said mentioned to me a bit back in Wales, I think there's some little small things being set up there as we speak. But yeah, this is more to me. I think it's got to be hands-on. It's got to be more local towards home. Don't put a big budget on it. Don't really try
I
and
mean,
involve money.
we're supposed to be awake and aware, and we should prove that. And we should think about new ideas,
I've been thinking about it, Richard, and I think for those,
new ideas with positive outcomes.
yeah, I think for those who are
That's
awake,
to start with.
yeah, for those who are awake, guys, I think you've made your step now. Where if you're one of them who can't go back to sleep, who literally cannot go back to sleep, then what else do you really need to be doing? If you're doing what you're doing to help other people, then that's all good. I can't complain with that. All I'm saying is, when you get to that stage, you have to realise that they can't change your consciousness. You've already managed to you've got full control of it. You've done well. Pat yourself on back for how far you've got, but just don't give up. Yeah, don't give up. Just come up with some, new ideas and ways around all this stuff that's going to be coming out over the next 2 to 3 years and whatever. To do with Snowfish Charter and all that. Yeah. Say again, Stav?
Can you show that image of Miley Cyrus again? I just want to show Nick.
I don't want to offend the viewers, or the odd viewers that we do get.
Are we still going then?
We're still going, but I just thought, let's close it off with some final thoughts.
Yeah, no, it's something I don't want to be watching again myself. So okay, fair enough.
Radio. Till next week, guys. Over and out from me.
Ta-da.
Fantastic.
All right. Cheers, Stav.
Cheers.
Everybody else. Richard. Yeah.
Bye now.
Bye bye.